Hello class, we're going to discuss on this another topic about mastering APA 7th edition. So this is the latest APA format for a research paper. So I'm going to teach you on how to cite sources and also formatting references in your research paper. So there's a connection between the citing sources in your chapter 1, chapter 2, and also chapter 3 to the references. So there are some minor differences as to the format. So we're going to discuss, and I hope that you need to make a screenshot or take note on the different formats. So this is a basic and yet important areas that you are going to consider. So there is a proper citation and formatting in a research paper, and this is essential for different reasons. First, citations show an intellectual honesty, so by crediting the original sources and preventing plagiarism. So this is a way to avoid possible problems with the sources or with the author of such an intellectual property. So you need to, protect yourselves from possible problems by stealing the intellectual property from other people. So you need to cite the sources of the information that you copy and paste in your research paper. And also, the citing sources will helps maintain ethical standards. Again, if you will copy and paste a certain idea and then you did not recognize the source of such idea, that is considered stealing. Okay, so citing sources will maintain an ethical standards and research integrity. So that's the first reason. And then the second reason, the citations will allow the readers of your paper to verify and explore the sources used. So you have this study, and then when the reader read your research paper, they are going to verify your information that you have put in your research paper. And also, it will enhance the credibility and trust in the academic work, since you are going to submit this and it will be part of the academic world or areas or to the endeavor in the academic field. So we need to have a proper citation or proper formatting that will ensure clarity and consistency. So you need to have a consistent format. Start from the first page of your research paper down to the last page of your research paper. So you are going to follow what is written as a standard. And we are going to use the latest edition, which is the 7th edition of the APA. Okay, so if you're going to follow the specific citation style, such as this APA 7th edition, it will demonstrate professionalism, and also it will looks like you are a part of the scholar community. Okay, so overall, correct citation and formatting will support transparency and also reliability and integrity in scholarly communication. So there is a difference between we are going to communicate verbally and we're going to communicate through in written or in the papers. So there is a proper way to communicate with your readers, and we need to follow the standard, the APA 7th edition. Okay, so now let's proceed to the introduction part. So the APA or the 7th edition is the latest version. Okay, the 7th edition is the latest version of the APA. Okay, so this is the meaning of APA, American Psychological Association. And we're going to use the latest edition, which is the 7th edition. So it was released in the year 2019. I forgot to put year here. It was released in the year 2019, the latest version, the 7th edition. So it updates the 6th edition with improved guidelines for citing electronic sources, especially now in our generation today, which is technology and also the artificial intelligence was used. So there are some modification or enhancement on the guidelines from the previous, from the 6th edition to the latest edition, which is the 7th edition. So there are some improvement on the guidelines for example, citing electronic sources, flexible authorship, attribution, and a simpler way to reference different types of materials. So we have different types of materials like journals, newspapers, internet, books, electronic journals, and others. So there are different types of materials and they have a different format that we're going to use. That's why it's important you need to make a screenshot or maybe you can write this in your notebook. Now, it is also um, proper citation and formatting will also promotes inclusivity by addressing a bias-free language, and it will widely used in the psychology and social sciences. So, for your information, also, the business and management is part also of the social sciences community. So it's based to from the different scholars from the previous generation that they are using the APA format, the American Psychological Association. And also it will provide a clear and consistent format for the academic writing and citation. So let's proceed to especially the question like why we need to cite sources. We need to cite sources because first we need to acknowledge the intellectual property and avoiding plagiarism. Again, if we are going to copy and paste in our research paper, we need to acknowledge the source or the owner of the said intellectual property. Same with the literal property like cars, lands, and other materials. If we are going to get this property without informing and without asking permission from the owner of that property, so this is considered a thief and it is unethical. So we need to avoid plagiarism. That is why we need to cite the sources. We need to acknowledge the sources of such intellectual property. Okay, and also why we need to cite sources because it will provide credibility and supporting the validity of our research paper, as I have mentioned in the first slide. And also it will allow the readers to trace and verify your sources. So when the reader will read your research paper, they can trace and verify that your sources is relevant and valid. So now let's proceed to the in-text citation that can be found in your rationale and also in your literature background and also in chapter 2, the discussion on the results of your data. So in-text citation, we're going to discuss this because I have given you an assignment to pass a rationale of your study and it needs a citation. So that is called in-text citation. So I'm going to show you the proper format on the citing sources in your research paper. First is you need to write the author and the date of the citation systems. Okay, the name of the author, if this is a sole author, and if there are multiple authors, you're going to mention also here and the year. Okay, um, don't worry, I'm going to show you an example of this format. Next, we also called here a parenthetical citation, examples for direct quotes and paraphrasing. and also including page numbers for direct quotes. So if you have these direct quotes from the other sources, so you're going to cite this one in a parenthetical citation, and also you're going to include the page number if it is direct quotes. Okay, so it means that when you copy and paste a certain information, we need to paraphrase it. Okay, because if you are just giving a um, credit by citing the sources and you did not paraphrase your information in your research paper, that can be still a plagiarism. So you need to paraphrase. But in case if you are not going to paraphrase a certain information, so you need to include also the page numbers. Okay, so don't worry, again, I will show you an example of these in-text citations. So here's an example. If there's only one author, you need to write the last name of the author and the year of the publication. Okay. Another thing, if there are two authors, you need to write the last name of the authors and you will put and. So the and is a shortcut and then comma, and then the year of publication. How about if there are three or more authors? So no need to write all the last name of the author. Instead, you're going to use the it al. Okay, it al. So there are different students that always have the mistake on the following the format. There's no period in the it, only in the al. Okay. And then how about the group authors? So if there's a group authors, no need to mention the last name. Instead, you're going to use the group like American Psychological Association. You can also DipEd 2021 or CHED 2021 and others. So you can also cite sources, not just on the last name of the authors. And how about if you have a multiple works by the same author? So you're going to add a letter. For example, Brown 2017 A. And then you also have 2017 B. Same author but this different research article. Now let's proceed to the quoting and paraphrasing. Again, if you are not uh, paraphrase your information that you copy from the, for example, research article, and then you paste it in your research paper, that is still considered a plagiarism. So you need to paraphrase it and then acknowledge also the sources of that information or idea. But there is also um, an exemption for that if you have this direct quote of the said idea. So for example, if you have quoting an exact, like this one, exact wording enclosed in quotation mark. Okay. Again, enclosed in a quotation mark, just like this one, for example. Okay. So if you will put a quotation mark from the first part of the sentence and the last part of the sentence, it means that you have quote an information or an idea in a direct way. Okay, so meaning the author, the idea of the author, you just copy it in full. This is a exact words or sentence being used on the authors. So you have the direct quote. But if you have no direct quote, you need to paraphrase your sentences or words. Okay. And then also, if you are going to paraphrase, you need to rewrite, okay, the information in your own words. Again, the plagiarism, it is not only applicable by not mentioning the source of the idea or information. Even if you're going to cite the sources, even if you are going to acknowledge the source of that idea, but you did not rewrite the idea or information, that can be still a plagiarism or stealing, and that is also considered as an unethical. So you need to rewrite the information in your what? In your own words to avoid plagiarism. Except if that is an exact quotation. Okay? And then also you should not use the direct quote simultaneously. Okay? It means that you have no you did not add on in your own words, and it will not be good in the eyes of the reader. So you need to have some mixture of both quoted and paraphrase materials. Usually, if you're going to use a quoted information or idea, this is from the, for example, an article like in your legal basis or in your theory that you are going to apply later on in your literature background. But for the rational, um, majority of the research paper that I have read, they are using the paraphrasing materials. Okay, especially they need to use also their own words without citing sources because we need to have an local issues, right? Or local gap that we encounter or observe personally in our experience. So that will be in the last part of the rationale. Okay, because we're going to discuss from the international issue down to the national and then local or in our own experience. So that's the format on the intake citation. Now let's proceed to the reference list basics. Okay, so I forgot also to mention when you pass your rationale, you need also to include the reference list. Kindly refer in our Google class regarding the format of the reference list or the sample of the reference list. Okay, so what is the reference list? It is a comprehensive list of all the sources cited in the paper. Usual mistake of the students, they put a reference, okay, they put a reference in the reference, the sources, but it cannot be found in the rationale and in the literature background. So if you cite a sources in the rationale and in the literature background, you need to put that in the reference list. Okay, so there must be a simultaneous. Okay, there should be an alignment. If there's an information in the reference list, make sure that there is also it can also be found in the rationale or in your literature background. Same also if you have cite sources in the rationale and literature background, it must be found also in the reference list. Okay, so again, the reference list is a comprehensive list of all the sources that you cited in your research paper. Next, the entries are arranged alphabetically, okay, from letter A down to letter Z by the author's last name. So there are also different formats in the reference list to the intake citation that I'm going to discuss later on. And also, if you are going to put in the reference list, we need to have this hanging indents. We need to have this first line. The first line is flush left, and then subsequent inline indented. So don't worry again, I will going to show you an example later on. So for the reference list, you need to put the last name and then the first initial of the author. It's different from the intake citation because in intake citation, you're just going to put the last name of the author. And no need to write the first letter of the first name of the authors. Also, you need to include the date of publication, the year of publication, the title of the work in italicized. It depends on the materials like journals or books. If it is books, you need to italicize the title of the work. But if it is journal, you need to italicize the name of the journal. So just like this one, you have sources, you have books, and journal and websites. And there is also an additional elements, example, the volume, the page numbers, and the DOI. So don't worry, again, I'm going to show you, or you can also check on this one in the sample manuscript from the previous students who conducted the research as well. So example here, as I have mentioned here, so for example here we have book. So you need to write the last name of the author, and you need to include also the initial of the first name and the middle name of the author. And then you need to put inside of the parentheses the year of the publication. And you're going to include also the title of the work and the capital letter also for subtitle, and also the publisher. So for the book, you're going to italicize the title of the work, but it's different in the journals. Okay, so for the journal article, you need to also write the last name of the author and the initial of the first name and the last name, and put the year inside of the parentheses. And you need to write the title of the article and also the title of the journal, volume number, issues number, page range, DOI or URL. And also if this coming from a website, so you need to put also the last name of the author, the initials, the year, and you need to include also the year, month, and day of the publication, and the title of the website name, and the URL. So as you can see here, there are different formats on the reference. It depends on the materials, or depends on the types of the materials. Now, how about if there are missing information that you're going to put here? Okay, so what we're going to do, what to do when some information is missing. So for example, if there's no date, you need to put in period D. Okay, for example, this one, author, AA, and then you didn't know, or there's a lacking of information of the year of the publication. Instead of putting the year, since there's no year, you need to put N period D and then period. Same with this one. And how about if there are three or more authors, you need to put it al. Okay, so you need to put period in the al, not in the it. This is the common mistakes of the students. They will put period in the it instead of putting a period in the al. How about for the online sources? It's important that you need to include the URL or the DOI for online sources. Okay, so again, later on, I'm going to show you the URL, okay, or the DOI. So um, in our, in language, in common language that we are used, this is called the link, okay, the URL or the DOI, but there are different format on this part. And also for the online sources, you're going to provide retrieval dates for the sources that may change over time. Since you are going to, for the internet, you're going to add the year, month, and day of the publication. So time to time, there's a changes on the information. So that is why it is also important if it is coming from online sources, not just includes the URL or DOI, but also the retrieval dates. What dates you have retrieved the information. Okay, so usually the retrieval dates is on the latest as the dates that you have copy the idea or the information. Now there are different citation tools that the researchers were going to make. Some use the overall overview of citation management tools like EndNote, Zotero, and RefWorks. So I'm not going to teach you on using those citation tools, but instead I'm going to teach you the manual so that you can have this learning on the traditional way. In order for you, if you are going to use these citation tools in the future, you have understand the format on the citation and references. Also, the in the part of the citation tools, how these tools can help automate the citation process. It will make your job an easier, but the tendency here, you cannot able to retain the idea, the information as to citation format and reference format. So since you are still in college, so we reference using the Zotero and Refworks or EndNotes. But if your advisor were going to teach you on how to use this one, so there's no problem on that. But in my part as a teacher of this course or research, I'm going to teach you on the traditional way. So this is only a backup tools that you are going to use. Okay. So thank you for your time, and later on I'm going to show you the sample format on the citation and also in the reference. So here in the chapter 1, in the rational part, I'm going to show you an example of the in-text citation. So the citation can be found in the first part of the sentence and also can be found in the last part of the sentence. So there is a difference on the format on the citation that can be found in the first part of the sentence and in the last part of the sentence. So for example, I'm going to show you here the in-text citation that can be found in the last part of the sentence. So you will just remember, if it is found in the last part of the sentence, all the information must be um, found inside the parentheses. Okay, parentheses, last name, comma, year of publication, and close parentheses. So you need to remember this format. This is an in-text citation format if it is found in the last part of the sentence or paragraph, I mean. So how about if the in-text citation found in the first part of the paragraph? So this is also an example of in-text citation found in the first part of the paragraph. Okay. For example, the author is Ibrahim and the year of publication is 2021. So if this found in the first part of the paragraph, only the year of publication must be found inside the parentheses. Okay, only the year of publication. Unlike in the last part of the paragraph, you need to put all the information, including the last name and the year of publication. But if it is in the first part of the paragraph, only the year of publication. Okay, and there's also no comma, only this one. Okay, so if all the information, the last name and the year of publication, inside the parentheses, there is a comma. If only in the year, no need to put comma. Okay, so you need to remember that this is the basic, yet very important, as we have discussed in my lecture in this particular topic, that there should be an alignment and consistency of your format. Now let's proceed. This is an example of a single author. So let's find a two or more authors. Okay, first is the in-text citation found in the first part of the paragraph. Same also, the year is inside the parentheses. But as you can see here, this is the last name of the first author, and you need to put it al. You need to remember only in the al should have a period and no period in the it. This is the usual mistake of the students. That is why it needs to review, needs to read your research paper multiple times. Okay, no need to put comma if it is in the first part of the paragraph. Now let's check example of three or more authors in the last part of the paragraph. Again, if it is in the last part of the paragraph, all the information will be inside the parentheses. Now, this is a three or more authors, so you need to put only the last name of the first author, and then you need to add the word it al. Okay. So again, if it is the if the information is inside the parentheses, you need to put comma. Okay. It al period comma. Okay. If it is in the last part of the paragraph. If it is in the first part of the paragraph, there is no comma. Okay, that's the difference between the in-text citation in the first part and the last part of the paragraph. How about for the two authors? Okay, if it is two authors, let's find an example of two authors. I hope that I can find a two authors here. So assuming that there are two authors, I can find any two authors here. This one. Okay. So for the two authors, if it is found in the first part of the paragraph, you need to mention the two last name of the authors, and then you need to put "and." Okay. So if this part, it is in the first part of the paragraph, you need to write the word "and," A-N-D. This is not a shortcut. Okay. And the year also, it is inside the parentheses. But if this author in-text citation found in the last part of the paragraph, you're going to put all the information inside the parentheses, and you should not use the word "and," instead use the shortcut "and." Okay, as I have mentioned in the lecture. Let's try to look if there's any two authors and have an in-text citation in the last part of the paragraph. So I have not seen any two authors here. Okay, so assuming if there are two authors in the last part, for example, Bandura and Cano, parentheses, Bandura and shortcut and then Cano, and then comma, 2010. So in this case, there's no period. So you need to add period after the parentheses. Now I'm also going to show you an example of the reference list, and then there are different format. So in this case, for example, the material is coming from a journal. Uh, this one is a wrong format. Why? Because the name of the journal article is not italicized. Okay? If it is a book, that's the time that you're going to italicize the title of the book. Okay? So if this is journal, you need to italicize the name of the journal until the number. Okay? Volume number and then the issue number until the number 2. Okay? And then you need to add also the URL. So this is the URL, and you need to put the URL if there is no DOI. Okay? So the DOI and the URL is the same. This is a link. I'm going to try to look if there's a DOI. So this is an example of a DOI. Okay? Same with the URL. Okay, so I hope last thing is the indentation, the hanging indentation. From my previous lecture, the first line, okay, you have a flash on the first line, and then on the succeeding line, as you can see here, there is an indentation. Okay, no need to. It is not allowed to use the tab in your keyboard to have an indentation because the tendency it will not justify in the right side. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example on how to make an hanging indentation. For example here, this is a reference, the information of the reference. So again, based on our discussion, the first line should be flush or no indentation, and then in the second or succeeding lines, it should be it should have an indentation. So if you're going to click the tab in this part, okay, so it will not allow you to have the same format as I've shown you in the PDF format. So some students will use or click the enter, and then they will click the tab. So that is not appropriate because there is a gap between the first line and the second line or the succeeding line. So instead, what you're going to do is you are going to highlight the text and then click on this part, this one. There is a arrow here, small arrow, and then after click that one, go to special, and then click the none and choose hanging. Okay, this is for the hanging indentation because this is part of the indentation. Click hanging and then click OK. So as you can see, this is the right format for the hanging indentation for the references. So same with this one, hanging indentation. So I think that's all. So if you have any questions, you can drop it down in our group chat, or you can ask me during in our face-to-face class.